Welcome, my friends, to our PMP exam study. It's always a pleasure to be with you folks, and thank you for joining. Today, we're talking about a topic that it seems old because we talk about it quite frequently, and it is the 49 processes. The 49 processes in the PMBOK guide. Because, when you take a look at the PMBOK guide, 7th edition, it doesn't have this. But when you take a look at the 6th edition, which is no longer in print, you have all this talk about 49 processes. But on top of that, it's also important to say the PMI has a document, a book called Process Groups, a Practice Guide. And Process Groups, a Practice Guide has got da 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 this table. This table is still relevant to how the project flows. So, very quickly, the overarching thought that you have needs to be, what are the core things I do in initiating? And it's developing the project charter and identifying the stakeholders. Everybody knows that. It's so simple, right? You create a document to authorize the project and you identify who could be affected by the project. Now, let's forget about everything that happens throughout the project. Let's look at the closing, the end, because this is another easy one to do. So, assuming you are, let's say you're a tax preparer, you do taxes, and in initiating, you want to know what is our main goal, and our main goal is to get those taxes done for whoever. That's like a charter. And then you identify the stakeholders. Maybe you got a family members, those are the stakeholders. And then forgetting about what happens and looking at the end of the tax preparation, you hand them the tax in a file or a binder, the taxes, all the paperwork, all the information, all the numbers, and then you close out the project. So you do a final transition of the taxes and maybe a final report, but that's it. So the initiating and the closing are the easiest pieces. Everybody pretty much understands this in project management. Now, going into the detail, at a very high level, you plan what needs to be done. Okay, I need to look at this paper, that paper. I need to look at that tax code, that tax code. So you're kind of planning what needs to be done. And in doing so, the way the PMI's view differs from the other bodies is PMI has discrete areas of knowledge, these ones. You must know your areas of knowledge like inside out. And it goes with the I saw 6 chipmunks quietly roasting coffee, reading poetry stories. I saw 6 chipmunks quietly roasting coffee, reading poetry stories. Where I find students in the very beginning fall apart is when they cannot get the knowledge areas down. But I've just given you the mnemonic. I saw 6 chipmunks quietly roasting coffee, reading poetry stories. Or I saw 6 Cubans quietly rolling cigars, really puffing smoke. Whichever one tickles your fancy, use that to retain the knowledge areas. When you now understand the knowledge areas, this is how I would think as a beginner. I need to plan for scope. I need to plan for schedule. I need to plan, you see, this is planning. I need to plan for cost. I need to plan for quality. I need to plan for resources. I need to plan for communication. I need to plan for risk. You see, even though like this has 5, I'm not bothering about that at this level. I'm thinking macro level. I need to plan what risks, how do I manage my risks? I need to plan for procurement. I need to plan for my stakeholders. This is the level that I would recommend thinking at first so that it doesn't become so laborious. You get what I'm saying? So if you have in your head, I saw 6 chipmunks quietly roasting coffee, reading poetry stories, and I prefer eating mangoes chilled. If you're able to remember those, then the rest, the charter, the stakeholders, the closing the project, and then I got a plan for the entire project, and I got to integrate all of these. That's why develop project management plan is an integration. This is the place a lot of people get lost because they're trying to tackle it all at once. You cannot do it like that. Just say, I integrate everything I'm planning. I plan for scope, schedule, cost, and so on. When you're done understanding it like that, you may now go deeper and start looking at the details and saying, okay, I know I said I plan for scope, but what exactly happens there? And that's when you now concentrate. That's when you now zero in on, okay, I plan scope, I do this, I do this. And then you got to give yourself an example, like how I said, imagine someone who's preparing taxes, them as a project manager, what would they do? They plan the scope of what they're doing, they collect the requirements from the people, they define, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing. And that's how you need to mentally go through each one. The reason why this becomes hard for people is they've never really tried to understand, okay, what is the difference between this, plan risk management and identify risk? What is the difference between, and because we have GPT today, it becomes so easy to say, explain the difference between this and this, if only they would do the work. So what used to be very difficult for my generation when we did PMP is so easy for people now because you can ask GPT, explain to me what is the difference between identify risks and perform qualitative risk analysis. So that's how I would advise people who are studying planning to do. When it comes to executing, the same thing. Executing makes a lot of sense. Directing and managing the work is really doing the work, right? It's leading the execution of the work. Managed project knowledge is just lessons learned. Managed quality is like quality assurance, checking to make sure people are following the process. See, acquire resources, developing the team. Straightforward, develop team is training and coaching. Manage team is giving feedback. Manage communications is sending out the communications. Implementing risk responses is carrying out the risk response you planned. So maybe you're planning, let's shift to a different project. Let's say, actually, we could use this one. So let's say you're still on the taxes project. You're getting to a point where you only have a few days left. The risk is high that those taxes are not going to be done. Part of your risk response, where you implement the response, could be I go for an extension. That could be your risk response. If I'm running late, then I go for an extension. So it's very simple. A lot of these things, conduct procurements is just engaging a vendor in discussions. Manage stakeholder engagement is engaging the stakeholder, you know. And then when it comes to the next process group, I think the place where people find the most, if I was going to be honest, where I hear the most cries from people is when they get to cost, control cost, because of earned value. If you're able to remember earned value, I don't think this should be a problem because everyone knows you got to prevent gold plating. People are always looking to add extras. The other day, my kid going to the store, buy this, buy this, buy this, just maybe four things. And you make the mistake of giving her enough money, she's going to come back with what she wants. She's not going to control the cost. She's not going to control the schedule because she's going to end up taking almost twice as long. A 10-minute job becomes 20 minutes because she's walking around the store picking up whatever she wants, scope creep. So we do these in our daily life. This is not hard to know what is in scope, what is out of scope, what is on schedule, what is within cost. What about quality control? If heaven help you, if you ask, at least my kids, you ask them to get something done, you got to be the quality police. You got to be the quality police because they're going to come back with a different story. Control resources is making sure the resources were used as needed. Monitor communications is making sure your communications are working. Monitor risk is keeping your eye on risk. Control procurement is managing the contract. And monitor stakeholder engagement is ensuring your stakeholders are engaged. Honestly, if you just take it as I broke it down step by step, this will not be hard. Now, because we have the gift, I call it a gift, some people I'm very impressed with it, but because we have the gift of artificial intelligence, which can be our mentor and our coach and all that good stuff, we can use an AI approach. We can say, let's go to ChatGPT real quick. I want to show you how you can use GPT to even get further ahead with the 49 processes. So let's jump into it real quick. All right. So if I was studying for the PMP and I had confusion, I would say, teach me earned value like I am, pick an age like I'm 12. Imagine you're doing a giant Lego project. You've got a big box of pieces, a plan, and your mom gave you $100 to finish it in 10 days. Now, three things matter. Plan value, what you said you would build by now. Think of it like this. On day 5, your plan says you should have finished half of the Lego castle. That half is worth $50 of the $100 budget. So your plan value is $50. Earn value, what you actually built. You see how I just broke it down. What you actually built, you built 1/3 of the castle by day 5. So the value of the thing that was built is 1/3 of the money, which is $33. Now let's see how much money you burned. By day 5, you've already spent $60. So you spent $60, you got $33 of work done, and you should have built $50 of work. So just looking at this, it's a bad situation. You spend more than you've done, and you've done less than you planned. It's so simple. So this can really help change the game. Another thing I could do is, what is the difference between develop, team, and manage team in 3 bullets? Because not everyone wants 100 bullets. I know bullets was spelled wrong, but he knows what I'm saying. So develop team, building skills and relationships, manage team, handling performance and conflict. Easy contrast, develop equals grow people, manage equals guide behavior. Just excellent. Excellent. So if someone really sits down to pound this stuff out, it can help you. Let me ask another one that people struggle with is define. Actually, I use a lot of vocal prompts, so let's use vocal. What is the difference between define scope and create WBS? Give it to me in 3 bullet points. Define scope, write the full story of what the project will deliver. Create WBS, break the story into Lego pieces. It decomposes scope into smaller chunks called work packages. Easy contrast, define scope, what must we deliver? Create WBS, how can we break it down to manage and track? The other piece that I find a lot of people getting confused as they're studying the 49 processes is more in the risk area. So I can do this. I can say, what is the difference between plan risk management and identify risks? Give me the difference in 3 bullets. Plan risk management, decide how you'll handle the risk. Identify risk, find the actual risks. Really simple. What is the difference between qualitative risk analysis and quantitative risk analysis? Give it to me in 3 bullets. Qualitative quick sorting, quantitative number crunching. It's a good way of looking at it at a high level, you know. So if I were you, these things that I'm mentioning that are difficult for people, yeah, hone in on those. And it's going to be easy because the difficult pieces, if we go back to our little roadmap here, I'll tell you what the difficult pieces are for many people. The difficult pieces are, okay, control cost is one, control schedule because of network diagrams, which doesn't come out a whole lot on the exam, but slack and flow, leads and lags, those words. So I'll go over those as well. These ones that we just covered, and then these ones. Yeah, develop team, manage team. It's really the shades of gray. And then these, like where we have define scope, create WBS. It's where we have many in a box. So you can see things like these are the areas that I find people crying about mostly. This because of the formulas and the technicality involved. So there's some pockets, but it will be good to, tackle them squarely. So what I would do if I was using GPT, I would take a screenshot of those pesky areas and I would come in here and I would just paste it. I'll say something like, these are the big ticket items on my PMP study that are giving me a lot of trouble because there's so many different processes in these boxes and they're shades of gray different. I need you to help me understand the subtleties between each one where you see the X marked. And then I just paste in my image there, send it, boom. And I'm going to get coaching and help. I see where you've marked the X's. So you see nose, it's so defined scope, create WBS. It didn't even bother with what I didn't mark. It's just going after what I did mark. Then it did all the risks. Then it did resource management, develop team, manage team. Then it did the schedule piece and the cost. Yeah. And then quality, boom. So if I were you, I would really try to get these down, once you are able to relate it to a real world topic, a real world project, a real world scenario, I think it becomes a lot easier. Okay. So thank you very much for the question. Are there any other questions?